You are listening to Wicked Psychotherapists, a podcast where two psychotherapists show you that taking care of and learning about mental health doesn't have to be wicked hard.
Hey everyone, this is Tanya.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
Yeah, today we have a fun one. This is a movie that I think most people have probably seen by now or just know the concept. Inside Out, the first one, not the second one. We thought talking about Inside Out would be fun and very applicable to mental health because hello, emotions and thoughts and how people develop, more geared towards child mental health, but of course is helpful for adults to know as well. I feel like I learned something, when I was watching it. So I thought we would just kind of go over some key points just related to mental health, some things that we found interesting, and just have a general discussion of the movie. But this movie is almost 10 years old. It came out in 2015. And the second one is coming out, or it's already out in theaters as we speak now in late July. But we have not watched the second one yet, but we will. So we'll talk a little more on that later. But so this movie first came out in 2015. I was working in community mental health, and I just thought oh my God, this is so validating to what we do in therapy. It really shows how complex emotions are. It really shows how processing works. And I just felt wow, if everyone could see this, maybe they could see our jobs as therapists, maybe with more geared towards children, but still something very important to understand. That was my take. I was just so impressed. I loved it. I loved the way they presented it. I thought it was so innovative and groundbreaking in the way they showed emotions and development. What were your first impressions, thoughts of Inside Out?
Well, I am just shocked at how I have no concept of time because I had no idea it was 10 years ago, but was really impressed about how they did get it all. As far as the emotions and how, as an adult watching it, I felt brought back to how I might have been feeling or how I have felt in different situations as a kid and as a teen and an adult. But, I'm sure we'll get more to that later. But I was really impressed with how they did break it down, the different emotions, and had it related specifically to your childhood at that time.
Yeah, I agree. It really was impressive how they showed the exterior and the interior and how that kind of formulates. And it's not just, oh, we're happy, we're sad. It's that as, develop and grow up and you have different experiences, it's going to create different emotions and then different emotions from that. And you're going to have simultaneous emotions and how to regulate these, how to, not avoid particular emotions in order to kind of integrate all of this sense of, making a worldview and also, the different phases we go through and how emotions are affected in that. A big theme I did see was, loss. And with at the beginning where Riley, the main character, the little girl, I'm assuming everybody kind of knows it at this point. We're just going to talk about it. If not, then go watch the movie and you'll understand.
It's 10 years old. Yeah.
Yeah. How she has to move because of her father's job and just lose all her friends, all her activities, everything that she knows, everything that's a comfort zone. And kind of being able to navigate, that's a big loss. She really, when she goes to school, she's just completely frozen because of all the change. And she just it doesn't really compute, and she just kind of, I feel almost needs to then we see the interior of okay, how does this play out? And there's a lot of, sadness there, but, in sadness, the character is there, but joy tends to overtake and kind of want to be everything's okay, which is kind of an avoidance.
Yeah. We're happy. We're fine. Everything will be okay.
Which we see in Riley's parents. They kind of want her to just be happy. And so they're kind of giving her that clue to, this has to be avoided. If you're sad, then we'll turn it into a positive. I say that with air quotes, right? That things, in order to get over things, you have to just look at the positive side, which I don't know about you, but that really bothers me when people say that, because maybe in some cases that applies, but I'm thinking in this instance, you're just avoiding a junk load of emotions, and you're also invalidating that person's experience.
Yeah. Well, and you hit it right on the head with Riley was experiencing a lot of grief, like moving from all that you know, and what a culture shock from living in a place where you're able to do hockey and snow and everything to somewhere where they're like, what? Hockey?
Yeah.
I don't know. And everybody already is established and they know each other and they're friends, and you're the new kid. And it was probably really hard for her. And the parents it sounds like they're trying to, everything's okay, we're fine, because maybe they were experiencing the same thing, but they have to put on these masks just to show, okay, we're happy, so you're happy, instead of slowing down and being like, you know what, the three of us are really sad and we do miss our old place, but let's do it together. Let's grieve. Let's give ourselves moments to grieve, but also then we can move on and experience this new place together.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a good point, is that, the parents probably, they meant well, and maybe that's just what they learned, but it's in doing so and kind of just saying, okay, we just need to do this, or, with one emotion, like it kind of shows that, like, okay, well, being upset, being sad, or being angry, or, feeling any type of way is not good. And you see that with Joy kind of being, if I may say so, a little obnoxiously present, and that's why she's kind of like bossy. She's kind of taking over a lot, because that's the emotion that Riley has been given the message, this is okay. This is okay to do. The other ones are kind of uncomfortable. She got that message for it.
Yeah. All the other emotions are just like, all right, we had to stand back, and she's going to be front and center. Joy is going to be front and center and kind of take the lead, even though they might be like, wait a minute. The other emotions probably are just as valuable too.
Yeah, for sure. And it certainly is, kind of something where you're showing the process of integration of these emotions. As when we're a kid, we may think of things as black and white, kind of, or like, all or nothing. We're kind of a little more in that like concrete stage. And I think we tend to think like, okay, this is good, this is bad, but she's starting to experience things where, there could be a lot of joy in this. There could be, some very joyful experiences, but there's also a lot of sadness. There's a lot of loss. There's a lot of sacrifice, a lot of grief, a lot of fear, right? Of, starting this. And so that's worth recognizing and just putting it out there, rather than saying like, well, let's just express joy, because then, those emotions don't feel comfortable to express at all, and you're not exercising them, and you're really not realizing the value of them, the integration that, and I'm sure, I don't know, this is actually kind of a random question that I'm just thinking of.
Okay.
Have you experienced working with someone who you feel like never really integrated some of their emotions like properly, or just kind of only expresses in a very like all or nothing and has discomfort in the
Yes. Yeah. And it might not be that they're always experiencing joy. It could be the fear, or, the anger, or one of the things is just dominant. And then it is kind of difficult to help them process other things going on. Because if you are always in joy, nothing wrong with being joyful and happy. That's awesome. But if you're using that instead of focusing on the grief or the loss or your fear that's happening or other things, it can be a little detrimental at times.
Yeah, because they can build up if they're there and they're not being acknowledged. And I've had some clients where, and I'm talking about clients that are not on like the autism spectrum or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, this is really something like in terms of more looking at just emotional processing, and everything, because it's a little bit different maybe with someone who's on the autism spectrum. But I would talk to them about thinking traps. And, this is a common term in cognitive behavioral therapy, and just talk about, like, okay, sometimes we have these traps that we get ourselves in. We develop patterns for how we deal with certain situations. And it can be based on past, situations that we've had to deal with, or role models, or just how we feel like this should do, because that's the model of the world that we have. But you get trapped in them. You can't really see outside of them. And, let's think of some alternative thoughts, some alternative ways to kind of maybe think about this and practice that skill in order to kind of change that pathway a little bit. Because at the root of a lot of these people's problems was that they were noticing a desire for other emotions to pop up in their life, but they didn't know how to do it, and they didn't really recognize it. And they felt like it was wrong, and so I think that's why this movie is just so groundbreaking. And in my mind, it's something that I feel like it just demonstrates so well the complexity in the fact that we, how we do develop different emotions from different experiences and how this is healthy and how this can help you and serve you.
Right.
And unfortunately, sometimes our upbringing or influence from friends or social media, whatever, cultural background, whatever it is, environment you grew up in might influence that to think that, okay, this is right, this is wrong. So and I'm just going to give an example, like say for men, I think probably in our generation, it was not as easy for them to, maybe it was like starting to be a little easier than the generation before. And definitely easier than the generation before that, for them to feel like, okay, either I can act out angrily, aggressively, or, just stay quiet, or,
stoic.
they didn't have many options in terms of emotions for the most part, right? I'm generalizing. Now I think there's a little more expansive room for that.
Yeah.
To express feelings. Like there's a little more acceptance. I feel like we're on that road with this generation.
Well, and probably even like past generations, maybe in a generation or generation before, even physical touch from, like fathers to sons is probably like, oh, going to shake your hand or give you a pat on the back instead of a hug or something like that. It's where now it seems that it's more the norm to hug, and it's okay to express physical touch and emotion.
Yeah. And I think these are, this is with this kind of education and this maybe just, maybe a feeling of we can evolve in our understanding of gender roles and how emotions are expressed. And I just think it all comes back to, I'm not saying this movie has influenced that. I mean, although maybe it has somewhat, but I think in general, this generation was ready for this movie. It was very much like placed well.
Yeah. It's kind of neat too. If you think of it 10 years ago, how many people grew up with it. This was their movie that they grew up with in elementary school or middle school and so on. And so it's kind of maybe helped people to understand their emotions a little bit more and maybe be more empathetic with other people.
Yeah. And like, have you noticed the merchandise and everything and the worksheets that are like, I've noticed, like, I used to use teachers pay teachers assignments for when I used to teach or for particular lessons for kids, in counseling, because there'd be some counseling themes in there. It's a lot of inside out theme things for that. And I even had a friend gave me a set of all the characters, like just figurines, and I would have that in my office. And it's a point of talking. It's now part of the cultural talking, towards like what kids understand as emotions. And, they may not understand the literal symbolic meaning of it, but I think they get the literal to it. And that is somehow that sticks in their mind. So I think that's a really great influence.
Yeah. And how neat to have it in your counseling office instead of just like a Freud bobblehead doll. Like you see some people have.
Yeah. So it's like, who wants to play with a Freud bobblehead? Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe some people do, but I don't.
Not me.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I got my, I don't have the figurines close to me. They're over there, but I got my Mr. Rogers.
I like
my
that.
Golden Girls button that you got for me.
Oh, I like that.
The sayings. And I got my Inside Out. The characters just couldn't fit on my desk, but those were like my go-tos. I love those.
I don't have any toys.
I always have like fidgets. Like I have like this like fidget and stuff like that. Like it just kind of, but I didn't have enough room for the figures.
I'm jealous. I don't have any toys at my desk.
Oh, go on Amazon and get some.
Yeah, I'll have to.
I'm telling you.
I'm sure I could just raid one of the kids' room. All right, this is now living at my.
Yeah, it's fun to have. I mean, sometimes I can even incorporate that into therapy with, I now work primarily with adults, and I can still incorporate some of the lessons of like, hey, if you're like we were just saying, if we have people who think kind of like in extremes, that kind of are not comfortable maybe in the complexity of emotions or even holding two emotions at the same time.
Yeah, because a lot of people are more visual. So if you have joy and sadness in either hand or joy and anger or something, that could be pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a good way. I mean, because, people that if they have kids or if they just like know of the movie, they're like, oh yeah, like even though like, okay, I know it's like very simplistic, but on that level, it makes sense. It really does. So I also was wondering about, I thought this part of this theme of the movie was really interesting, where there is like personal growth, like in your core personality, right? So Riley is moving from a place of being like a young child who kind of understands things and like I'm in my comfort zone. Everything is like, this makes me happy. I'm pretty happy, not like if I'm sad, it's because like my friend couldn't play, but it doesn't like take over. Now she's had to move, leave all her friends and everything. And she's learning like, okay, there's this sadness here. I can't avoid it, right? Like she starts to learn like, that's not really, I'm still feeling it.
Mhm.
And she has that moment, I think, in the movie where she like breaks down with her parents and she's like, I'm just sad. Just like
Yeah.
sad. And like, is like, I need for this to be okay that I
Yeah.
have this sadness, but I don't want it to overtake me. But, like I have it. And that's like so key to me. I remember that so clearly because it's just such a way of saying like, it's okay for me to be sad and to get support. And this doesn't have to define me kind of
Right.
thing. Like it can be that can be a part of who I am.
And to be able to
because it's a sad
express it. Yeah.
circumstance.
And to be able to
Yeah.
express it and say it and know what the words are. Because so often
Yeah.
we don't know, we don't pause and we don't know, wait a minute. Oh, wait, I am just sad. It's, not just sad, but I am sad.
Yeah.
And I need to just, maybe it's okay for me to just lay in my bed and just be sad or to cry or just to want to avoid people for a little bit because sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah. And I think this is where like healthy coping mechanisms are developed, right? Like if you kind of were never able to express and comfort those other emotions, maybe you could only express like happiness or anger or something like that. If you were sad, I mean, some people may have been like mocked for that or put down or called weak. And so you may just put that in the back of your mind and say, okay. And then you end up expressing it maybe overly in anger or overly in like shutting down. And I think when you are able to speak and say, I'm sad about this and get the support that her parents are very supportive, they do want to help her. She's able to say, okay, I can reach out to people. This is okay. It gets stored as like a, kind of core understanding that she can have these different emotions and
Right.
it can be okay. And she's developing the coping skills to kind of integrate this, which I think is really amazing. It really shows that, and I understand this movie was very much, the parents were she had two caring, loving parents. Not everybody necessarily has that. And that's maybe where people would develop other mechanisms that are maybe unhealthy or just don't work or are not very good for them. Yeah. And I think, the core personality here, right? Like we often think back to who are we as people? And some people may be like, I was a happy kid, like I don't know what happened. And they may be remembering this time before all these complex emotions and they were never really able to integrate it. And so it feels like they've maybe never been happy since then, or maybe there's been trauma or, and then that was hard to process. And, a lot of other things can happen.
Yeah.
Between them. But, we think it's kind of overall, like, you want to be able to handle feelings in moderation. You don't want things to feel like you want to be able to know that you can get support. You can have coping skills with some things. You can hold different emotions. Emotions are not bad. They're signals. They're clues. They're things that we need to understand ourselves and what's going on. And that is like literally therapy, right? It is therapy. And it's so cool, the visuals in it and how like they have little ball memories and like the core memories and how they get stored. And I just love it. I love that. I love that movie. But yeah, so I think it really validated a lot for kids, for people, for emotions. Like, yay, we're pro emotions therapy, like how it works. Do you feel like this was helpful or like the characters or the lessons has it been helpful for you in your own practice or just your own like thinking about things with theories of how to practice therapy?
I think when I have watched the movie, it does stick with me for a little bit longer, and it does have some talking points because I know I personally I see just adults, and I know I've said this before, but I have referenced the movie, and I do feel like it does help, like as far as being able to have people really understand, like even talking about core memories, because you hear a lot of times people talk like, oh, this is a core memory, this is going to become a core memory, but a lot of people don't really understand what that is, like. Oh, it's the big trip to grandma's, or it's the ride on the bike, or it's this really special time sitting on the bed reading together, or it's this fight I had with my friend in middle school, or it's moving, or, so they don't realize that, oh, that's what they mean by that. And these are some things that help define or develop who we are and how we cope with those things throughout each experience.
And that can apply Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and we're constantly still developing new memories. It's not just those main core ones. It's just, we still are developing new ones on top of that too, because you'll see like, hey, they're still coming down. There's like different long-term memories are now going to be in different slots.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was gonna say. Yeah, like we were both thinking at the same time. Like it definitely, yeah, like building upon it and like different phases in your life bring that about, but you're always kind of growing in that. And you can change certain parts of yourself by understanding them differently, and kind of looking at, okay, these emotions, these things that, maybe I've done in the past, I can, with a new understanding, develop, different core memories that can help me to understand myself differently or move about this life differently.
Yeah.
So very much can be applied to adults. That's such a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because how often, especially if we couldn't, what would the point of therapy be? Because we're constantly almost like helping people to rediscover themselves or reinvent themselves or to figure things out. And if we weren't able to change everything, and if everything was just kind of cemented from when we were a child, that'd be pretty disappointing, wouldn't it? But now we're able to figure out who we are and who we want to be and work on some of that stuff from childhood or young adult or whatever you're coming in for. But you are able to change that and redefine who you are and how you process things.
Yeah, for sure. I like the way you put that. I think that really is a good way of kind of looking at the span of a lifetime and like how these emotions are placed and memories and how we maybe have not broken it down. And I'm saying we as like a society maybe have not really broken it down to this level, at least, maybe for this generation. I know we talked about another connection you had brought up, which I thought was really great, Winnie the Pooh. That there is, some people say they're like different parts, different emotions, like yours, depression, Tigger's like, hyperactivity or whatever.
Yeah, ADHD maybe or something.
And that is kind of, from our generation, right? Like that would kind of be it. But I feel like it really pulls it together. Like you understand the workings of the mind.
Yeah. With Winnie the Pooh, there is the different things where they can all be emotions or feelings or what you're feeling. But what separates it too is Winnie the Pooh is more how Christopher Robin is experiencing it or how it affects him. And yes, I know all of this is also based on Riley, but the way that Inside Out I feel is different is it's not only are they in the brain and you see this whole little board where they're working off of, then you see what's happening in the mom's brain and the dad's brain. So it's not just Riley's fear. It's, so every human or every person has experienced this, or they have this group of emotions kind of being their cheerleaders or kind of working with them and helping them. And it does feel a little different. I mean, I love Winnie the Pooh, but it's always a big cheerleader for Eeyore too. But I do see the difference with this.
Yeah, it's really kind of like you said, it's kind of more individual to, like, it would almost be like internal family systems, like parts work.
Yeah.
I think for like an individual like Christopher Robin, like here's your sad side, here's your like hyperactive side. That's in very general terms. We're, being very general. For anyone that doesn't know about that, just if you're interested, look up internal family systems, but there's different roles you assign to yourself. It's not about being a multi-personality. It's just, stuff that we all see ourselves as. But yeah, that's a good point to point out that we do go into other people's brains and Inside Out. We do see that it's happening with all of us. Like we all have emotions. We all have this complexity. We're all trying to work this out. And that is a great point because it's like you're not alone in this and this is not something that no one has to deal with. This is something that we all have to deal with, whether or not you're like considered an emotional person or not. I still have a tough time with that because I'm like, how can you not at least be a little bit emotional?
Yeah.
Like we all have emotions.
Well, in that context, especially with the Inside Out, and isn't everyone emotional? So when someone says like, oh, you're so emotional, it's like, yeah, I am.
Right. Yeah.
So are you.
Right. Yeah. You just may have like a more limited sphere. You don't engage as much in them, but like as humans, we are, I don't know, some people maybe operate from a different point of view and they just find that works for them, know, but it's there. It is there, I hope so, unless you're like a, sociopath or something.
Yeah.
And even then you'd still have emotions. They'd just be
a little darker.
Yeah. Exactly.
A little scarier.
I did want to touch upon the Bing Bong. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to say Billabong. Bing Bong.
Surfboard.
The loss of Bing Bong, because Bing Bong's like Riley's imagination. And this is such a key moment because it's almost, like Bing Bong has to, not have that connection with Riley. He has to kind of go away in that point. Like she has to kind of grow up and understand things a little bit differently. And it's kind of like a bittersweet moment. Yeah, you understand it, but you're also really sad because it's a loss. And
Yeah. And a sacrifice too.
yeah.
It's so sad. Like I was just getting really sad just thinking about like his sacrifice that he made, so Joy can get up and, make it. And he's like, and he jumps off his little scooter or wagon or whatever it is, and knowing that he's going to disappear. And it's so sad. And I think Joy was in denial for a while too, where she's like, no, we're going to go, you're going to make it. And, Riley will remember you and you'll come back and, it's going to be, it's probably, but then it's like, Bing Bong was probably like, nope, I've had my time with her and, this is my sacrifice so that you can still help her, because he loved her.
Yeah. And I think it was interesting because Joy was kind of trying to help in her own way, but it was kind of, a little bit in denial, a little bit of avoidance, and Sadness sat and listened and let Bing Bong, see Billabong. Bing Bong have like the space to talk. And like there's that point of like emotions are sometimes just you need to talk them out, and that again, counseling. Oh my God.
Yeah. And that's where also Sadness was so important because Sadness, like I know Joy kept thinking like, Sadness is such a drag. Like she literally had to drag her places because she's like, I can't walk. I can't do this. But Sadness is so important, especially with Bing Bong's journey, to be able to tell the story and stuff. Because Joy probably would be like, no, you're fine, or whatever. And Sadness is just quiet and probably opening the space so people can talk, and it's just like
allowing for it.
Oh, yeah. Have both emotions. It's okay to remember the happy times and also to be sad about that there might be changing.
Yeah. I really like that. That was very like, I could see that. I could feel that moment.
Yeah. I just remember being really sad, thinking like, okay, what things did I, like as a child or a teen, like have to decide, okay, this isn't part of my anymore, or like or what parts do I have to pack away, like or do I not? Some of us don't, it's like sometimes, and that's okay too. I mean,
it's kind of it's interesting because you can, like I remember feeling like because we're both the youngest of just a billion siblings, right? And we probably set the pressure of like, oh, I have to be like like them kind of thing. And so we probably had a lot of pressure on that to like kind of grow up, quote unquote. And I remember thinking like, I can't watch cartoons. Like nobody ever said anything really to me, but it just kind of felt like nobody else was really wanting to watch them. And I was like, oh, I can't be like the baby, like watching cartoons. And so I think I stopped watching them before I like wanted to stop watching them. And I remember when I was probably in like my like mid to late teens, I kind of would like want to watch cartoons again and kind of just be like not like, too much, but just like if I'd see a cartoon on TV, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna just kind of watch it. Like it was just kind of nice to like recapture that, and like I kind of was like, I'm not super into this, but it was just a nice memory. I don't know.
Yeah. I think because I'm the youngest too. And there's a big age gap, so there's, there's not like someone just like a year. My oldest is 10 years and my second oldest is 7 and 4 and whatever. But I remember my brother and I, like when I was in high school, he would wait for me to watch like Inspector Gadget when we'd get home. And he's like, like 7, 8 years older than me. But but I think I was helping him probably be like, all right, I'm not too cool to, but we both really enjoyed watching Inspector Gadget. I think it came on
after. I'll watch it with you.
Yeah, I think
it probably the volume.
Because I remember my sister used to get so mad because she used to want to watch, because she was so grown up, she would want to watch like Guiding Light or something like that, like one of the soaps.
Oh yeah, all the soaps.
And we'd be like, oh no, we have to watch Inspector Gadget, but.
And by the way, youngins, if you're listening to this, it's because we only had one TV. We didn't have phones to watch. I know that's hard to imagine, but yeah, we all had to share like a TV with like 3 channels.
Unless you were super rich, but we were not. So we had the one TV. And I think someone had like a smaller TV somewhere. But yeah, it was just like the one TV. So you had to fight over like what show
Yep.
you were going to watch.
Yeah. And like usually the youngest doesn't win, you know,
No.
like, come on, you know, it's
Yeah.
like every once in a while, maybe.
Yeah.
but,
So I had the
you know,
backing of the oldest, like, you know, like, so.
That's good. Smart. I like that. I wish I knew that strategy.
Well, it wasn't like he was always the most mature, but you know, he was fun.
No, but that's good. I loved Inspector Gadget.
Me too. I still do. Like,
I still do too.
it's like because the movie was really funny, and I think there's like a new cartoon on, you know, on Netflix or something, but it still holds out. I just love it. It's so funny. It's like, he's so dumb and just always getting in
but
trouble.
it's such an endearing way.
Yeah,
I actually have a weird story related to like when I thought I was Inspector Gadget. Like I was playing like I was.
Okay.
So I broke my arm thinking I was Inspector Gadget. Like when I was like 5 or 6, and I went over to a neighbor's house down the street. I was with 2 of my sisters who are like a year and a half older than me, and we were playing with like kind of our mutual friend, whatever, and she had this clothesline in the back, and I had just seen an episode where Inspector Gadget ziplined.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I just so wanted to do it. And so I was like, I can do this. I don't think I told anyone. I just started doing it and fell right on my arm, ran down the street. It was, oh, it's okay. And then I just ran down the street and started crying, broke my arm. And so
oh my gosh.
I thought I loved him so much. I thought I was him. And I just,
Well, you didn't have to go robot arm or whatever. You know, you didn't have to.
I didn't. Yeah, I should have prepared for that. That was silly of me, you know.
You didn't have Penny and
But-
brains to protect you.
I will always remember. It's like such, you know, it's not a great memory, but it's like, it's a funny memory. It's like, 'cause I
Yeah.
really thought I could be Inspector Gadget.
I wonder
you
how
know?
many kids have stories of twisted limbs or whatever from trying to do something like that.
Like falling off of like roofs or something. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, but you know, like something like that.
Yeah,
But,
just that's
yeah.
funny
Or
though.
maybe I was the only one who ever did it. I don't know.
Yeah, it probably looked like the perfect. I mean, especially in like kid brain, it's probably like, all right, I could scale that. This is perfect. I saw him do it in that episode the other day. This is gonna
I
work.
really did. In my mind, it was perfect. And I like did not tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone that's what I was thinking because I was embarrassed by that first. I don't really know why. Maybe I just like realized it was stupid. And I was like, oh, but I still love Inspector Gadget. So-
Yeah,
And like, it made me so happy. So,
yeah.
but yeah, there's no,
Maybe because there's such a adventure and childlikeness to him too. So it's just like almost like it's okay
Yeah.
to be silly and think of new ideas as an adult. So as a kid or a teen, even or an adult for my brother, because he was probably like 17, 18. But it's okay. Like your childhood doesn't have to be lost as you get older. So that kind of ties in too.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And it's so true, though. It's so true because look at us. We still like it. I mean, I still think that's like, to me, it's a great, it's a weird, great memory, but
Yeah, that's a core memory.
it really is. And like, I don't know that anybody, like, if any of my families listening, I don't know that they ever knew that. Like, I told my, like, years later when I was an adult, but like, I held it like in my mind. Like, I knew that's what I wanted to, like, I was like, I can do this. And
That's so funny.
since I have been ziplining quite a few times over like and I did not break anything. So I fulfilled that. And I did think of Inspector Gadget.
Did
I was
you?
like,
That's so
Inspector
fun.
Gadget. So it's good to keep, that's like the joyful memories and like the childhood, like
Mhm.
nostalgia, innocence.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know.
That's
It was
funny.
still-
Yeah.
yeah.
I just remember how mad my sister used to get. Oh my God. She would get so,
She hated it. Yes.
well, she'd get so mad. She'd be like, you guys are so immature, because she was trying to be so cool, and she thought she was cool, and she, you know, we were not, I guess, in her
Yeah, the
brain.
guiding light sucks. You know,
Who
like,
cares what
come on,
Jack's
Inspector
doing?
Gadget's
And yeah.
best. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, this even shows to this day, like some of our emotions and like how it's still a part of you, right?
Mhm.
Like you don't lose that, you know, like you
Right.
can engage with it. Of course, it's not your like main exterior like person. I'm not like, you know, going ziplining on my own like clothesline now and like thinking I can fly or something like that. But, you know, like I wonder, honestly, you know, this is so strange. I just thought of this. But I wonder if that's why, like, I have tried a lot of like aerial things that I really always was fascinated by. Like, like flying has always been such a like, oh my God, I love being in the air. And so I've done like hang gliding, I've done skydiving, and I loved it. And I remember thinking how fun it would be from Inspector Gadget with like his
Yeah, he
Go-Go
always had like
Gadget.
his coat always became a plane or a glider.
Yeah.
Huh.
I wonder if that's kind of why I was like, like I still am. I still like we're planning a hot air balloon trip, and I seriously am so excited about that.
That's
Like, I just
awesome.
love that stuff. And I
I don't
wonder if
know.
that's kind of where I first started thinking about it. But I just
That's
thought of that.
interesting. Maybe
It's
we'll
so
have to
weird.
do a future episode of how cartoons make us who we are today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Inspector Gadget is going to
Yeah.
make the list.
Yeah,
for sure.
Mr. Gadget. Inspector Gadget is definitely
You're on a formal
Mr.
basis with
Inspector
him.
Gadget, very formal. He definitely is high on my list.
Yeah, I think so too. Who played him? Was it Robert Downey Jr. that played him in
No,
the
I
movie?
think
Or am
it
I
was
totally
Matthew
imagining that?
Broderick. I think
Oh, was
it was
it?
either
Okay.
him or I always get him and the guy who played Ferris Bueller. Is he the guy who played Ferris Bueller or the?
Oh crap! I can't remember his name. I can picture his face. He was married to Sarah Jessica Parker.
Yeah, that's Matthew Broderick, isn't it?
Matthew
No.
Broderick. Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you already said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mix them up at one point. I don't know why.
Yeah,
for
him
some
and the
reason,
other
like,
guy. I
did
can't
not-
remember his name because it was like Ferris Bueller and then Better Off Dead came out around the same time. And then they look
Yeah.
alike, those two actors. And again, back at the 80s, sorry everyone.
Yeah,
But-
we'll always return there.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, but I did like going back to what we were talking about before, though. I did like that part where he was sacrificing himself for Joy to get back to Riley. To, like it's almost like it's given permission for her to help her, with the next stage of whatever development is.
Yeah, like to grow and to be okay to grow, and and to know that it's sad, but it's something that is always there. The memories are there, right?
Yeah.
So I know we're on the verge of we need to kind of wrap this up, but I'm curious what your thoughts are for Inside Out 2, what you think may be addressed, or are you just like excited to see it? Let's pull a little something out there about that.
Okay. Well, I mean, it seems like it's going to be a lot more touching on the next stages, like puberty and teenagers and
oh Lord, yeah.
different friendship groups, because friendships change a lot. It's not just like, oh, we're a group friends. Now it's going to be the triangulation and, or just like boyfriends and more focused on grades and college, maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen I haven't seen it. So I'm excited to see it. What about you? What do you think? What do you hope to see, or what do you think from the trailers?
I'm really anticipating. I agree. I think it's going to be more complexity upon the complexity that already they started, and there's going to be an expansion of emotions and kind of seeing how that integrates, and also of like maybe thought processes and with people that become more important in your life, like maybe your friends are more important at certain points, and like how that kind of affects Riley's thinking. So I am excited to see that, even though like teenagerhood makes me nervous. And so I'm a little kind of like, it like brings me back to my own, which was not fun.
Yeah. Teenagers. Being a teenager, you don't really realize it's probably very aggravating for adults around you at times.
Yeah.
Because it's a stressful period and full of a lot of hormones and emotions. And I guess that movie will be perfect.
Maybe though it'll help us to kind of see the interior of it and to kind of say, oh, okay. And like help, kind of feel a little less frustrated with it. You know what I mean? Maybe. I don't know. Cause we're both frustrated by teenagers.
Not all, but a lot. Yeah, it is. It does. Yeah. And then often I think, which I'm sure we'll talk when we go Inside Out too, about our own experiences being teenagers.
Yeah. I think we definitely are going to hit on that down the road. But this was fun. Any other thoughts you want to add in there before we wrap it up?
I did like at the end how everybody had a space, so it wasn't just, Joy's button, how she allowed she allowed Sadness to start using I keep wanting to say keyboard, but like whatever it's called, the like
control board.
Yeah, the control thing, and how she wasn't just in control, and she started to realize like, oh, wait a minute, we all are really important. It's, we need a little bit of fear, a little bit of anger, disgust, and, sadness and joy. Yeah. And it all, it's, and you can have them all at the same day, or you can have like certain experiences, you could little micro emotions too. It could happen.
Yeah. It's all very complex. I think it's about recognizing that emotions are not just, you need to be happy, you need to be sad. Like there's just so much, I think, to feel like you are well balanced and able to express that and to feel okay in that. And it just brings me back to my child therapy days. Like that was just all the tenets that we would try to work with. So I just think it's a wonderful movie. Like it's a gem.
Yeah.
Good job.
And it really also taught about like the parenting styles too, because I know the parents had their little emotions like arguing with them in their head, but also kind of helped them to, oh wait, slow down, pay attention to what your spouse is doing or what your child's
Yes.
doing or how all this affects everybody. And I think that was kind of neat to see as well.
I just had a thought from you saying that. I wonder if in Inside Out too, it may be more perspective of Riley and her friends, like seeing from her friends' perspective and how that.
Oh,
makes
yeah.
sense.
Because friends do become your world or, a bigger portion, in high school. And
Yeah. Well, yeah, this has been fun. So we hope you enjoyed this talk about Inside Out. We love it. We're a fan. We hope you are as well. If you're listening to this, you probably are. But it is just, kind of our, trophy for therapy. It very much validates a lot of the work that we do and helps to explore that. So
yeah, because Tanya has the dolls in her office and
Yep. Yep. I think I even have like a picture too, like some sort of picture that somebody had gifted me at one point too of it, like just kind of to hang up and everything.
Oh.
But yeah, so we're gonna wrap this up now. Look for somewhere down the road an episode. More than likely we're gonna talk about Inside Out too. Let's just face facts.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So look for that somewhere down the road. Probably not immediately, but I'd say within like 6 months or so.
Yeah, because I think we have the next month or so scheduled. So
yeah. All right. So that was great. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wicked Psychotherapists. On Facebook, we are The Wicked Psychotherapists. Subscribe, follow us wherever you can listen to podcasts. And if you could please write us a review.
Yep.
That would help us out amazingly. Yeah. And for some reason, I talked about stickers last time, and I will send stickers to you or something, or I will send you Inside Out. I don't know. Just write us a review.
Tanya has a lot of promises, so hold her to it.
I have little gifties that I can send out that I kind of no longer use, not being a child therapy anymore and being telehealth. So
yeah,
and they're new things that like were never used. So we just really want you to review us. It helps us. So I'm offering that. So yeah. So and don't forget, stay wicked
and keep your mind well. Okay. All right. Well, have a good week, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.